Ladies and gentlemen, in a world that often rewards power, wealth, and prestige, there remains a force, unseen, unmeasured, that carries the potential to change lives. That force is kindness, not the grand, performative kind. I'm talking about the quiet gesture, the helping hand, the choice to act when there's nothing to gain. Today, I want to tell you a story about a simple girl, ordinary in the eyes of the world. She wasn't dressed in diamonds, she didn't come from legacy or lineage, but what she did have was a heart that noticed others, and one ordinary day, that heart led her to help a man on the side of the road. He was stranded, mud splattered, unrecognizable. She didn't know he was a billionaire. She didn't care. She saw someone in need, and she acted. Character isn't built in public, it's revealed in private. It's not defined by what we post online or how we perform when the lights are on. True character is measured in those quiet, unseen moments, when no one is watching, when there's no applause, no validation, no likes or comments to count, just a decision, a choice, a quiet act that reveals everything about who we are. She didn't help the man because someone might write about it. She didn't pause her day because there was a reward waiting around the corner. She didn't look over her shoulder to see if anyone was filming. She just stopped, because something inside her whispered, "This is right," and sometimes that whisper is louder than the noise of the world. That kind of integrity isn't taught in classrooms. It's not the result of strategy. It's born in the home, in the heart, in those invisible lessons passed down over time. It's what happens when kindness is modeled, not just preached. When love isn't a word but a practice. When a child grows up watching people do the right thing not for show, but because it's right. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She wasn't auditioning for approval. She was simply being who she is, and in that one small act, barely noticed by the world, she revealed everything, her courage, her humility, her upbringing, her values. It was all there in a single moment. Character doesn't wait for an audience. It doesn't need a spotlight. It's steady, quiet, often invisible, but always powerful. The truest version of ourselves appears not when we're being watched, but when we believe no one's paying attention. And in that stillness, who we really are comes to light. Status doesn't determine worth. Actions do. That billionaire, the man who had dined with presidents and closed deals worth more than some countries' GDP, had met thousands of people. Politicians, celebrities, royalty, he'd seen it all. But when he spoke of her, a simple girl with no grand resume, no media following, no designer clothes, his voice cracked, his eyes misted. And for the first time, his wealth didn't shield his emotion. Why? Because she saw him when no one else did. She didn't know who he was. She didn't care. She treated him like a human being, not a bank account, not a brand, not a title. No one told her to be kind. She didn't do it for the cameras. She didn't angle for recognition. She simply helped, without agenda, without expectation. In a world obsessed with status, with blue checks, luxury cars, and flashy lives, her gesture was a quiet rebellion. She reminded us that it's not the suit you wear, but the soul beneath it. She had no millions to offer, no platform to shout from. But what she gave was far more valuable. Her time, her empathy, her attention. And she gave it freely without measuring if it was worth it. He never forgot her. Because in a moment when he felt invisible, she made him feel human again. That is something money cannot buy. It's not wealth that builds legacy. It's grace. It's not applause that defines us. It's compassion. The girl may never make headlines, but in one man's story, one man who could have anything, she became unforgettable. Because the world will always forget what you had. But it will never forget what you gave, and sometimes the richest hearts live in the humblest places. You never know who you're helping, so help anyway. That's the truth most people forget in a world that's constantly calculating, weighing, and guessing every action. She didn't stop to ask about his background. She didn't run a credit check or scroll through social media to see who he was. He was a man in need, and she was a person with a choice, and she chose to help. She didn't know he was a billionaire. To her, he was just a stranger on the side of the road, maybe lost, maybe struggling, maybe dangerous, but she didn't freeze. She didn't drive past and justify it later. Something inside her, call it instinct, compassion, or simply courage, told her to stop, so she did. And in that moment, she showed something most people have forgotten: humanity. We live in a time where kindness often feels risky. We hesitate. We ask, what if they scam me? What if they use me? What if I look stupid? And sure, those risks are real. But so is the other side. What if your small act of help becomes the moment that changes someone's life? What if your simple kindness is the only light someone sees in a day filled with darkness? You don't need to have it all figured out to help someone. You don't need a perfect plan or a guarantee. You just need a heart willing to show up. Because the truth is, you don't know their story. You don't know who they'll become. And you may never see the results of what you did. But that doesn't mean it didn't matter. So help anyway. Not because it's safe or smart or strategic, but because it's right. Because one day, someone might say that moment, that gesture, that person saved me. Love begins where ego ends. In a world obsessed with image, wealth, and recognition, we often forget what truly binds two souls together. The twist in this story: they fell in love, not out of need, status, or fantasy, but out of something pure and rarely seen anymore. He was a man used to being admired for what he owned, not who he was. People saw his cars, his properties, his power, and they bowed to it. But she didn't. She didn't know about the billions. She didn't care. What she saw was a man who looked lost, quiet, maybe even broken. And without hesitation, she helped him, not with grand gestures, but with kindness that expected nothing in return. She had no reason to be kind. She didn't calculate the value of her time. She wasn't trying to look good or earn favor. She simply acted from her heart, and that's what shook him, not her beauty or charm, but her sincerity, the way she didn't flinch when he offered nothing in return, the way she listened without interrupting, the way her eyes stayed on his face, not his watch. And in that moment, ego fell away, his need to impress faded, her instinct to guard herself softened. They met, fully, with no masks, no performance. Just presence. That's when love began, because real love doesn't ask for credentials. It doesn't thrive on reputation. It doesn't care how many followers you have or what car you drive. It looks for something deeper, something rare. A soul that listens, a heart that gives, a spirit that sees through the noise. She didn't love his world. She loved the silence between them, and in that silence, something eternal took root, something no ego could ever build, and no wealth could ever buy. This girl had no idea that her one simple act of kindness would lead to something extraordinary. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She didn't do it for recognition, likes, or praise. She simply acted from her heart. And that's where the real magic of life often begins, not in grand gestures, but in quiet, honest moments that no one sees coming. But that's the beauty of life. Every single day, you and I are handed 1,000 small opportunities, choices that seem insignificant, moments we can easily ignore. Yet behind one of them, everything could change: a door held open for a stranger, a kind word offered when someone looks down, a hand reaching out when no one else notices. These are not acts of weakness. They are choices of strength. And those small choices, they carry the weight of destiny, because kindness is not just a feeling, it's a force. It ripples across time and space. Sometimes those ripples return to us as gratitude, other times as love, and sometimes they come back in the form of a gift far greater than anything money could buy: meaning, purpose, a connection that heals you just as much as it helps someone else. You may never know the impact of what you do. You may never see the reward, but don't let that stop you. Be the one who acts when no one else does. Be the person who sees someone others have forgotten. Be the heart that refuses to be hardened by the world, because somewhere, right now, someone powerful is lost, someone lonely is waiting, and your kindness, your small, brave choice, could be the spark that changes both their story and yours forever. All it takes is one moment, one action, one heart willing to care.